Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Personal Injury conversation. And on this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I have personal injury trial attorney Parisima Roshanzamir, founder of Roshanzamir Law, APC in sunny San Diego, California. Now, Parisima, who is definitely what one would consider to be an authority in the area of personal injury, will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. Parisima is here to talk to you about what you need to do to protect your rights when you're injured. So, if you are one of the many people who have unfortunately lost a loved one or through no fault of their own has been injured in the San Diego, California area, you might as well down tools, take a break, log out to Facebook, Twitter or Instagram or anything else which may cause a distraction. Maybe even grab yourself a notepad and pen and listen in to what Parisima has to share with you today. So, with that said, let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Parisima.
Thanks for having me on.
You are so welcome. So, Parisima, we've got a short amount of time, 15 to 20 minutes, so let's just jump straight in with our first question for today. Can you briefly, in your own words, describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Sure. My focus of practice is personal injury, and that's exclusively what I do in my work. The people that I work with are typically people who are injured through no fault of their own, or people who have lost a loved one through somebody else's wrongdoing. And so in my practice, I see people that are injured in a variety of ways. It could be a child that they have who was injured at school, or they suffered a physical injury at work, or it could be a dangerous condition that they walked on, a slip and fall or a trip and fall. And what I see most common too is people who've been involved in serious crashes, collisions on the road or on the freeway. So those are the people that I usually work with. They're vulnerable, they're injured, and they need sort of guidance to protect their rights.
Okay, Parisima, so it goes without saying that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely information. Now, I'm sure in all the years that you've been working and helping the people who you know you can help the most, you come across many misconceptions. People come to you with preconceived notions. They believe them to be true. They've researched them online, found them on Google, or they've heard from family or friends. But you have to spend time debunking these misconceptions, these untruths, these myths. So with that said, and because we're limited by time, could you just share the most common misconception that you come across on a regular basis, please, Parisima?
Sure. You're right. There are a number of misconceptions that are in my area of practice, but I think by far the most common is around the topic of insurance. I think most people don't realize that when they are injured, it's typically the insurance company that is the source that will provide them compensation. There's a stigma around the idea of asking to be compensated when you're injured for, your medical bills, or in a lot of cases, when people are injured, it's not just the medical bills, but they are also suffering physical impairments, physical injuries, mental suffering. Those, bills coming to their house, it causes a lot of anxiety, emotional distress, and grief. And so a lot of time people need help in order to be compensated for what's been taken from them, but there's a stigma that if they ask for that help, that somehow they're titled as greedy or that they're working with somebody who's an ambulance chaser, or that for whatever reason they're a bad person for asking that. And I think the best way to remember this is all of us, we pay every month, we pay for insurance, so that in the event that if we wrongfully hurt someone or injure someone, by accident, that our insurance is going to take care of the person that we've hurt. And in that same way that the insurance is going to take care of us when somebody else has hurt us. So I think the biggest misconception is people forget that it's the insurance companies that are going to be compensating the person, and that's the purpose why we pay every month for insurance to exist. So hopefully that answers the question, Stewart.
Yeah, it sure does, and I'm really glad that you shared that in such detail with us, Parisima. So based on what you just shared with us then, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, could you just share an example of how you've helped someone who came to you with that misconception that you just described, with that challenge, and what kind of results you were able to gain for them?
Sure. I actually had, and this misconception is almost in not just with the clients that come in, but a lot of times when you take a case to trial and in front of juries, jurors are not allowed to know that insurance is, at play. And a lot of times jurors don't feel comfortable in awarding someone what they may really be entitled to, because they feel, in some part, feel bad that it will be a person paying for the damages, right? And so a specific case that comes to mind is I helped a client of mine who was walking the street and there was a very dangerous condition that needed to be fixed. And the city was made aware of this dangerous condition on a number of times. They had residents around had written letters to the city that this condition is dangerous, that the sidewalk is likely to cause a serious injury to someone or harm to someone. And in fact, the area was near a facility where there were a lot of elderly and a lot of sick people that were, using that area. And the city simply ignored all of those requests from the citizens and from people to go ahead and fix that condition. So when my client came to me and she was seriously injured, she had tripped and fell on that area. And a lot of people wouldn't take the case because cases against public entities or cities are very, very tough cases. But in this case, I took on the challenge, and we compensated her fully for all of the loss. And in addition to that, we were the purpose for that change. The city ultimately completely repaired the area, made it safer, and really that through that person, we were able to make the condition a safer place to protect other people from suffering the same injuries that she suffered. And so in that act, not only she was able to be fully compensated for her injuries, but through it, she also brought a positive change for other people. And that client specifically was one where she had the misconception that if I go after the city for the injuries that I've lost, that somehow I would be labeled or marked as a greedy person. And so that was one example that comes to my mind, and there are many.
This is some really important work that you're doing, isn't it, Parisima? I mean, you're really having a huge impact on people's lives.
I think when you think of a personal injury attorney, sometimes the bad misconception is, and you hear many jokes about it, greedy trial lawyers, ambulance chasers. But the reality is, people who are in my profession, who represent individuals, we are often up against huge corporations, insurance companies who will do everything they can not to be held accountable. And they've spent lots of money in PR campaign in making, titling lawyers such as myself greedy trial lawyers or ambulance chasers. But the reality is, if it wasn't for my colleagues taking on this type of work, we wouldn't have, some of the safety things that we as citizens take for granted. I think that our society and our community is safer because of the work and the challenge that attorneys who represent people take on. The only way that corporations will listen sometimes, unfortunately, is when it hurts their bottom line. So I think it's a tough work, and often you are against many challenges, but it is a privilege to be trusted to do this type of work.
And that's why I'm so glad you've taken some time out of your busy schedule to come and speak with us today and to share your insights from an experiential point of view, being a personal injury trial attorney. So thanks so much for doing that with us today, Parisima. Now,
it's my pleasure.
You're so welcome. And as a reminder, today's topic is what you need to do to protect your rights when you're injured. Now, with that in mind, then, Parisima, and for those people who have, as I said before, unfortunately lost a loved one, or have been injured through no fault of their own, and they're out there listening right now, they want to know more. What's the most common but unknown pitfall that they might not, but 100% should be aware of, no matter how they feel, no matter what kind of situation they find themselves in?
That's a very good question. The number one thing in my area is if you're injured, if you're out there, you're injured, you're hurt, your first immediate call needs to be to make an appointment with your healthcare provider. It needs to be with somebody that you can trust, and a doctor that can examine you. And first and foremost, make sure that as far as medical point of view, that you're going to be helped. And so your first number one call should be to a doctor, and your second call should be to and I'm talking in instances where you are injured through no fault of your own. Obviously, if you've injured yourself and it's completely your own fault, a lawyer probably is not going to be very helpful in that matter. But if you got hurt or you lost a loved one through no fault of your own, after making an appointment with your doctor, the second call should be to a trusted and an attorney who specializes in personal injury. The reason for that is I believe that information is power. And so the more you know about your own rights, given that the situation that you're in, you are coming from a place of strength and knowledge, and you are protecting yourself from people who may take advantage of you when you're in that vulnerable situation or position. Often when people are injured, they are vulnerable. They don't know what steps to take next. They don't know what they need to do as the medical bills start to come in. They don't know what they need to do to protect their rights, and that in the event that they need to help to recover for the burden that has been put on their plate, they need to be sure to protect those rights. And so most often people don't know, and they are left on their own to deal with the insurance companies. And I typically get the call sometimes when they have tried their best to go as far as they can dealing with the insurance companies, but I think that leaves them more vulnerable than anything. So number one, call to your doctor. Number two, call to a trusted and a good specialized personal injury attorney.
So while we're on that topic of seeking out a good specialized personal injury attorney, Parisima, let's just imagine I find myself in the unfortunate position of I've been injured, maybe in the workplace, whatever the case may be, and it's through no fault of my own. And I'm now looking for the help of somebody like yourself, a personal injury trial attorney. Could you just share one or two top tips that I should be looking out for when I'm looking and reaching out for that professional help?
So, a couple of things that you should look out for when you're seeking the help of a personal injury attorney is find out what percentage of cases that they handle is actual personal injury. So sometimes there are firms who handle a variety of cases. And so it's important for you to know what percentage of the cases are specialized or focused in doing just personal injury work. That will help you determine the persons or the attorney that you're trusting, their level of experience or expertise within this area of the law. And the second thing you can ask is, you can always ask the lawyer, what is their level of experience with trials and how comfortable they are taking a case to trial. Now, 98% of cases typically resolve, but it's good to have a lawyer who is experienced doing trials so that if they take on your case and you're not given a fair compensation by the other side, that lawyer has experience handling the cases through trials. So those are the two tips that I have in mind.
And those are two very good tips, and thank you for sharing that with us, Parisima. Now, just briefly, real quick, Parisima, how many years have you been working in the personal injury field?
Well, my love for this area started when I was really in high school, and it's a passion of mine that goes way before I even started law school. And so I started interning in different law firms really as early as I was still in high school. And then I graduated in 2012 with the California bar license. So I have been practicing since 2012.
Since 2012. Okay, so we're talking, 5 going on 6 years possibly. So would it be safe to say in that amount of time then, Parisima, that you've helped hundreds of people with their personal injury situations?
Yes, it would. And, Stewart, I don't by any means consider myself the best of the best of the best in this line of practice. I've been only practicing for about 5 years. But I am very passionate about the clients that I take on, the cases that I take on, and I'm always very comfortable in reaching out to the other lawyers in my community, in my field, and partnering up with them. I'm a strong believer that there is strength in numbers and that there's strength in knowledge. And so there are many, many excellent personal injury attorneys and trial attorneys in this community, and that I'm lucky to work with great clients and great people within this community.
Okay, so let's just spend a little bit of time speaking about your background, your formal education, and your experience as it relates to the topic of personal injury.
Sure. So I'm a graduate of San Diego State University. I received my bachelor degree in economics, and that was back in 2008. Then from there, I attended law school right here in San Diego, and I took the California bar and passed the first time in 2012. With the field of personal injury, I started working with a firm here in San Diego that also specializes in no other area than personal injury. And they were one of the premier, and still are, one of the premier personal injury law firms in San Diego. And after working with them for about 3 years or so, I decided to take a leap of faith and start my own firm. Again, only specializing and focusing on the area that is closest to my heart, personal injury. And so I've been doing this work on my own, running my own firm for the past 2 years or so. Does that answer the question, Stewart?
It answers it perfectly. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Parisima. We're finally coming towards the end of the show, and I'd just like you to picture the kinds of people who you work with, those people who you know you can help. What final thoughts would you like to leave with them before we move on to our last question for today?
The final thought would be that when you are injured or you have lost a loved one, that you may be in a vulnerable position, and that it's good to at least reach out and consult with other people who specialize in the area, who can give you guidance and can help you learn about your rights so that you can do everything you can to be protected, and that you're not taken advantage given the situation or the position that you're in.
Fantastic. So, Parisima, if there is somebody out there who wants to know more about what they need to do to protect their rights when they're injured, how can they connect with you? Where would they find you?
Sure. I'm actually all over, anywhere on the internet. They could probably find me. If they just put my name into Google, they would probably come across different blogs that I've done. But you can always find me on my website as well. That's Roshanzamirlaw.com, or they can just pick up the phone and call me. My phone number is 619-320-1005. And I'm happy to talk to anybody if they do find themselves in a position where they need the consult of an attorney.
Okay, so whether you're cruising down the highway in your car, I hope you're not stuck in traffic, because that's not a lot of fun. Maybe you're even out shopping or out for a walk and you're listening in on your personal device. Whatever the case may be, that's all we have time for today. Once more, that was personal injury trial attorney Parisima Roshanzamir. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Parisima. I think...
Thank you for having me on.
You certainly have demonstrated that you're a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So, you've said thank you once before, but I'm going to say thank you to you also. It was great having you on the show today.
Thank you, Stewart.
You're so welcome, my dear. And also, even more importantly, Parisima, I'd like to say a big thank you to our listeners. As if we didn't have listeners, we wouldn't have any reason to have our conversation today. So thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this very insightful and what I can only describe as a very informative conversation with one of the leading personal injury trial attorneys in the San Diego, California area today. Again, that was Parisima Roshanzamir. Remember her name. Take a moment to give her a call, send her an email. I'm absolutely sure you're going to be in good hands. And that's it for today. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading personal injury professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Personal Injury Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.